Hi everyone, welcome back to my channel, or welcome if you guys are new. I went to 6 Walmarts in the last 2 days to find this collection so that I could film this video for you guys. I picked up the new Super Bloom collection from Profusion. I got both of the eyeshadow palettes, all 4 of the matte eyeshadows, and then I got the matte liquid lips. So those are the products I'm going to be showing you guys in today's video. Oh, and I also got the lashes. I have not used lashes in forever, so I'm very excited to try all of these products out. There are a couple things I didn't pick up, but I just honestly didn't think that I would use them. I didn't have a lot of interest in like the glosses, and then the blush tones just didn't really call to me, as well as the liquid highlights just didn't really look like my kind of thing. So if you're here for that, I'm very sorry I do not have those to show you, but I do have the majority of the collection today. I also hope you guys don't mind that I'm going to throw this right in here, but just a little bit ago, about an hour ago, I hit 1,000 subscribers on YouTube. I know I had a couple of videos pre-filmed, but this is the first video that I'm filming since then. So I just want to extend a very sincere thank you to all of you guys. Thank you so much if you are subscribed to my channel. I really, really appreciate it. I work really hard on my content, and while subscribers and the subscriber count is not the only thing that I look at, it does feel very rewarding to have hit that milestone. So I'm very excited to keep creating content for you guys, and thank you guys so much if you do enjoy and watch my content. If you're not already subscribed, then here is my shameless plug to do so. Hit that red button down below. I upload 3 videos every single week on Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, and every now and then I've been uploading some bonus videos on the weekend, kind of like this one. But with that being said, let's go ahead and jump into this video. This is going to be a first impressions review and demo, and I'm also going to be sharing swatches of all of these products for you guys. So you're getting a little bit of a sneak peek because I'm trying to see how they wear for a little while on the back of my hands. So yeah, let's just walk through everything that I did pick up. So like I said, I did pick up these lashes. I couldn't believe that this is a 2 set of lashes for $3.98. I did pick these up from Walmart, so the pricing is slightly different from Walmart and Profusion's website, but on Profusion you can usually find a discount code. They run a lot of sales, but I did pick these up in store and they were $3.98 for the 2 sets. They're very wispy. They're called the Flutter Lashes. They're faux mink lashes. They look like they have a nice kind of like medium thickness lash band. They're not the thinnest I've ever seen, but they're definitely not the thickest lash bands. They look pretty good as far as for being able to kind of hide them with your liquid liner or something. So I am very excited to see how these look. I don't always love lashes on me, but for $3.98, I couldn't pass it up to just give them a try. Next up, let's talk about this lip duo. So these came in a little set. It's a duo and they were $4.98. And I was intrigued by the matte set of them because the tones of these liquid lipsticks actually looked pretty unique to me. This is a more of like a deeper sort of red shade, but then this one in particular wasn't quite a typical coral sort of shade either. It has a little bit of like strawberry in it, but it also definitely has that little hint of coral as well. And as I was swatching them, I was very impressed with it. So they have been on my hand now for about, I would say about 10 minutes now. And they do have a little bit of a sheen to them, so I want to go ahead and try them on my lips before I put my eye makeup on, just so that we can kind of see how they would look. I'm going to end up doing 1 look on each eye, and I feel like it might look a little bit crazy, so hopefully seeing the lipsticks on their own can be helpful for you. I did have some Aquaphor on my lips, but I tried to wipe it off. My lips have been really dry, but I'm hoping that the Aquaphor will have helped them. So first, let's see. Oh, of course, they do not have the shade names on them. If they have a shade, I'll put the name on the screen, but I'm gonna swatch the lighter one first. The one that I was describing is kind of like a mixture of like a little bit strawberry, a little bit coral, sort of a shade, and we'll see how this one looks. Okay, so here is the lighter of the 2 shades on my lips. I actually think this is such a fun color, and like I said, I feel like it's very unique, at least to what I have in my collection. It feels like almost slightly oily, like it's a really thin consistency, but it definitely feels slightly oily. I don't know, it's kind of confusing. I've never really tried a liquid lipstick that has felt like this, but I feel like it's actually really nice because it's not very thick and goopy or anything like that, and I feel like it wouldn't leave that like really terrible line I feel like we all get with liquid lipsticks. So upon first impressions, it feels really nice. All right, I'm gonna go ahead and wipe this one off so we can try on the deeper shade, but let's go ahead and try the deeper of the 2 liquid lips. Wow, this is a really pretty shade too. I like this a lot. This one feels slightly more creamy. I'm gonna leave it on at least for a little while so we can see how it dries down, but here is the second one. Next up, we had the 4 liquid eyeshadows. These are all matte eyeshadows. I did pick up all 4 of these because I feel like there was a lot of interest from you guys over on my Instagram for all of these shades. And I originally was just going to pick up this one in the shade Bluebird, and a little bit of a spoiler, I'm very glad that I picked up all of them. And when I show you the swatches, I think you'll see why I'm saying that. But let me show you guys the swatches and then we'll talk about them a little bit more. So first up is going to be the shade Daffodil. This is the yellow shade. This is the one I probably would have had the easiest time talking myself out of because I'm just not sure like how often I will use a shade like this. But I think it could be a lot of fun for the summer and creating a lot of fun looks. I'm interested to see how these do underneath eyeshadow. I feel like that one swatched very well, and I think the next one did too. The next one is in the shade Marimo, and this is the kind of like army, kind of foresty green and kind of shade. I guess it's like a khaki green is a better way to describe it. I think this one swatched very well, also probably equally as well to the yellow one. I think that this is a very fun color. I feel like you don't see this a ton in this sort of a format of an eyeshadow. So I think that the 2 of these shades could be a lot of fun, even to pair together, maybe to do like an ombre sort of liquid liner. Next up is going to be the blue shade called Bluebird. This did not swatch very well. You're seeing here that it swatched very sheer and a little bit patchy almost, and then even as it dried down, it is extremely patchy. So I will say that I'm not very impressed with the swatch of this one. It's gonna have to really perform differently on the eyes. I also wanna show you that I've had it on for about 10 minutes and this is what it's looking like compared to the green and yellow ones. It is very like bubbled and cracked as well. But here in the spots where it's a little bit more wet looking, it is actually like bubbled up and pretty cracked. So it is not very impressive right there. And then the last shade is the shade called Sweet Pea. Now this one is pretty, but it's pretty sheer looking, so I'm hoping that it's not going to mess anything up. I don't know, I'm wondering if like if you blended it out with a brush on your eyelid or something, if it would be any different, but I'm not very impressed with the swatch of that one either, to be honest. And by the way, these ones were $3.98 as well, but I was most excited for the 2 shades, like the Bluebird and the Sweet Pea, but I was pretty let down by both of them as far as the swatch goes, but I'm very impressed with the way the 2 of these swatched. So I hope that this kind of helps you guys to see how that goes. I'm really not planning on using them on the eyes today because I did pick up both of the palettes and I don't really want to taint the usage of the palettes with the liquid shadows being underneath them if that's going to mess up the performance. I mean, they're staying in place for sure. Like I'm not rubbing my hand lightly and they're staying there. And if you're wondering about the lipstick formula, that is not drying down. So that is still being able to kind of like be malleable and move around. It feels very comfortable on my lips though, and I've been talking for several minutes. So I think I'll leave these on my hand until the end of the video and we'll just see if for some reason they look any different, but I'm gonna go ahead and wipe these off my hands so they don't get everywhere. And then let's jump into the eyeshadow because I literally cannot wait anymore. Okay, I picked up both of the palettes. I'm just gonna do one look on either eye. I really don't like to do that because I just like to see like the completed look, but it is like 10 o'clock at night and we drove around to all the Walmarts, so we're gonna have to do that. But let me know down below which one you guys are most excited about and I will film another video with it. But let me show you guys the swatches of this Ethereal palette. As far as the packaging goes, it was pretty nice. It has just cardboard packaging. I like this a lot better than their plastic packaging, but this here doesn't feel that good. It's kind of like a dome, like it has a little bit of a bubble, so it feels a little strange. Like I don't feel like the eyeshadows are very protected. It did have a little plastic insert, but I will go ahead and show you guys the swatches from the Ethereal palette. So overall, I feel like this swatched pretty subtly. Like I don't think that any of them were extremely punchy or poppy. Minus the shade here called Fluorescence. This one I think swatched beautifully. It was very, very pretty. Other than that, everything was slightly more sheer for the most part, especially the mattes, but I'm not gonna judge these until I put them on my eyes. However, I feel like with something like this, you can kind of tell. But I think sometimes with eyeshadows, you can't quite tell until you have them on your eyes. So I don't want to judge them too much until then, but I feel like overall this is kind of like a subtle glam sort of a swatching experience, I guess, because the colors are very stunning and I feel like it might look glam when you build them up, but they did swatch pretty subtly. Then I swatched the one in the shade Harvest. Now the formula overall of this palette, they swatched a lot better and they felt very different. The mattes felt a lot more creamy, and then you'll get to this shade here, which is almost like a Super Shock sort of shade. Now this palette had a lot more shades that really wowed me upon swatching them. Harvest Moon had a nice like shift to it when you looked at it. And then the shades such as Growth, Evergreen, Marigold, and Equinox were very impressive. And then I did notice that especially the shade Gather was just a lot more creamy than any of the shades in the Ethereal palette. So I feel like this one, they might have been a little bit more spot on with the formula, but I'm not very surprised because I feel like these types of shades are easier to formulate than these sort of like bluey, greeny, purple kind of looks, or like, you know, like the blue green, not this sort of like earthy sort of green. Those are kind of like my initial thoughts on the products. By the way, these palettes both retail for $9.98 at Walmart and $10 on their website, but you could use a coupon code there. Okay, I'm going to start out with the Ethereal palette, but I'm going to go ahead and wipe off this lipstick because I think the bold shade is going to throw me off. It didn't dry down completely. It still was like pretty movable. There was really no point in doing like a smear test, like it's just going to completely come off. Of course, the palettes do not have a mirror, so I'm going to be using one from another palette, but I'm kind of wanting to create a pretty ethereal look with this. I'm pretty sure that was probably a given. I definitely want to reach into this shade called Fluorescence though, because that was beautiful. I also think I'll draw into the shade Delicate here. I'm thinking probably some of these lighter like pastel shades that's always kind of call my name. I'm just going to kind of like throw shades on the lid and we'll see how it goes. I think for starters, I'm going to go into the shade Bouquet. And I'm just using a pretty fluffy crease brush. I am going to tap off the brush. I have my eyes primed with the Juvia's Place eye primer in the lightest shade. When you tap the brush off and use this shade, you can make it a very light wash of the color. Be sure to let me know which palette you want to see more looks from, but I just kind of wanted to get a feel for the formula. It's been so long since I've used Profusion eyeshadows, so I'm just really excited to use them more, honestly. I think I'm gonna go into the shade Prickly, just a little bit. Again, tapping the brush off. I really wanna use some of the colorful shades because I feel like these kind of neutral shades are pretty easy to formulate. So next up, I'm gonna go into the shade Lavender Field, and I'm gonna build this into the first part of the crease. Pastel shades are sometimes harder to formulate and they don't build up as nicely. So that's what I'm really wanting to see if this one does or not. This is the third time going into this shade now. With the same brush, I'm going to go into the shade Crispy Morning. I'm sure you're not surprised that this Periwinkle shade was the one I was the most drawn to. I want to pack this on the outer edge of the lid and bring it up just a little bit, like kind of towards the end of my brow. I'm a little bit worried about over blending this shade, so I'm going to try and use a little bit more like packing motions. The reason I say that is I don't want it to get muddy, and sometimes with more affordable shades that are kind of more out there, more dusty, kind of fill in the blank there, I feel like they don't blend as well. I'm going to use a clean brush and try and keep this line clean. I don't typically like to do my face makeup first, but you know. Also, if you want to know anything else that's on my face, I'm going to have a link down below. I just went ahead and did all of that off camera to kind of save some time. I'm going to go back into the shade Bouquet, which is the kind of peachy coral shade. And I do want to blend this up a little bit where it was earlier. See if that blue can blend at all. I think the blue looks pretty muddy here where I blended it with the orange. So I'm going to try and pack the blue on. It's not just drugstore shades that can do this. I just find it to happen more often. Yeah, I feel like if you just kind of pack it on where you did the blend, then it looks less muddy. So I'm happy with that. Next up, I want to use a tiny crease brush in the shade Flora. And I want to pack this on the outer edge. Okay, I really like this shade a lot. It's blending so nicely in with the blue. I'm getting a little bit more of the blue shade Crispy Morning on that blue brush, and I'm packing it again lightly everywhere that I had the blue. And then just for the sake of using more shades, I'm going to use the brush that had the shade Bouquet and use it with Cherry Blossom as well. Just kind of want to get a feel for some of the matte shades, and I want to pack this in the inner corner, or like the inner part of the crease on top of the shade Lavender Fields that we put there. That shade's really pigmented, Cherry Blossom. Picking up a little bit more of Bouquet again, the peachy shade. I'm going to try and blend this here towards my nose. Okay, I'm trying to pick which shimmer shades I want to use, so I'm going between Delicate, Fluorescence, In Bloom, and then I think Hydrate, like the really blue shade. I'm kind of thinking let's use all of the above maybe, right? Because I know not everyone has a glitter primer. I typically would always use the NYX glitter primer, but I know not everyone has that, but I feel like more people would have a setting spray and you could just get your finger or your brush wet with it with these shimmer shades. So I hope that's okay with you guys, but I know that I just prefer that with shimmery shades. All right, I'm gonna start with the shade In Bloom, which is this one here. It's like a nice purple sort of shade. Then I'm gonna use Urban Decay All Night. I feel like this is my most popular, most well-known setting spray, so that maybe you guys own it. And I'm just going to spray it on my finger where I have the shade. Then I just want to press this shade all over the lid. And then I'm not gonna do anything else but pick up more of the shade. I don't need to spray it again. I just feel like that helps it kind of build. Then I wanna do the same thing with the shade Hydrate. Again, I wet this shade. And for this one, I wanna press it towards the outer part of the lid. That's a really, really pretty shade. I'm gonna pick up a little bit more of that one. That is stunning. I feel like I never wear a blue like that, but it's really pretty. Okay, these shimmer shades, of course, are looking a little bit patchy right now, but I want to top them with these other shades. So I'm gonna put Delicate on the inner portion and then Fluorescence on the outer portion of the lid. I'm not gonna wet these shades. I feel like they'll stick perfectly fine over the other shimmer shades. I'm just gonna be careful to press them on versus like swiping motions. That is stunning. That's the shade Delicate. And then Fluorescence has this blue base to it. This is a Huda Beauty shadow. That is what this is. This looks like a shade from their Rose Quartz palette. I didn't really love it in that one. This one I can get behind because I feel like it goes with the palette. You guys might know that I actually owned that Huda palette and I ended up returning it because I felt like they didn't really advertise it as being blue, and that palette was so blue in my opinion. So I'm just building these two shades up. That is stunning. I absolutely love that. I want to pick up a little bit of the shade Hydrate on my brush. This is just a flat shader brush. And then I'm going to wet the brush, just one spray. Hopefully this will help it stick. And then I want to press this kind of in an angle and create a little bit of a point here at the end. Then I'm going to pick up on the other side of that brush, the shade Fluorescence. I am going to spray this once because I feel like I have more fallout when I use a brush. Spray it once and do the exact same thing. Press this over the blue shade. This is beautiful. I want to take the shade Awakening, just to use one more shade, and you know what? I'm going to use it on a brush. So I'm going to pick up the shade Awakening on a brush, and I'm going to use this as my inner corner highlight. That one doesn't have a ton of pigment to it, so I'm going to try and build it up. And then I'm going to run the shade Bouquet underneath the lower lash line as well. Okay, so this looks so pretty to me. I really like it, especially the shimmer shades, but honestly, I feel like the mattes blended really nicely as well. I will say that the matte shades were very light, so just keep that in mind if you're not into that. It's a very like watercolor sort of a feel. But I feel like that goes very well with the name Ethereal for a palette. And it also matches very well with all of these shimmer shades. So I'm really excited to use this more. However, based on the swatches, I feel like I'm even more excited to try this one called Harvest now. So let's go ahead and create the other look. Okay, so I'm gonna start out with the fluffy brush on this one as well and go into the shade Nurture. Again, I have to blend the crease out. So this is the only thing I just can't stand about the Juvia's primer and the packaging. Okay, I want this again to be my transition shade. This is a really nice shade. I like this one a lot. I want to go between the shades Gather and Oak on the same brush. I feel like this really brings out like the yellowy tones in my eyes. All right, then I want to use the shade called Crop. Again, this is the same brush. And I'm putting this on the outer part of the lid as well as the outer part of the crease. I want to blend it all together. This is a really nice shade as well. Yeah, this formula is more pigmented off the bat. And I feel like this part, looking at it as a whole, looks a little bit light. So I can try and add a little bit more in a minute, but this one looks way more seamless and is blending like a dream. Let's just go with the shade Autumn. This is a smaller crease brush. And I want to kind of like pack this here in this outer region, kind of where I was just working. But I want to bring it in a little bit into the crease. Yeah, these are beautiful shades. And then just to make it even more warm before we add some greens, let's use this shade Foliage on the same brush. I feel like this is such a pretty shade. This is the palette that I want to try every shade from. I feel like I'm more excited about this one after having it in person and slightly less excited about the ethereal one after having it in person. All right, I laid that shade down and then I'm just going to use the original crease brush with no additional product to blend it out at first. Yeah, I think I'm happy with that as I blend more. Just to try out one more matte shade, I think I'm going to pick up the shade Secret Garden here with a brand new crease brush. I don't know, I might not like the way this goes on, but I want to add it in the front part here of the lid and then slightly into the crease. That's a nice mint shade, nothing crazy. I want to use every single shimmer in this palette and I can't do that. So we're definitely going to top everything with Harvest Moon because that had the prettiest flip to it. But I want to use for sure the shade Equinox. This was like a Super Shock sort of shade. I'm kind of thinking let's start with that. I'm going to put that one all over the lid and then we can kind of build some other shades above it. This one is so creamy feeling and I just kind of want to see what it looks like all over the lid. I'm not spraying my brush for this one because it's so creamy. Wow. Wow. I love this. It's got gold flecks in it, but it's a very thin formula. Like it is not crazy at all. That's really, really nice. Evergreen and Fern on the outer edge, I think. That's really nice as well. And then going in with Evergreen. Actually, I put those in the wrong order. I'm gonna put that slightly closer in. I'm not wetting any of these shades because I'm putting them over that creamy base. I love these. I want more time to play with these. It's like so late and we wanted to watch a movie, so I'm trying to film this before so we can watch it. My husband's very patiently waiting, so I'm trying to be mindful of the time that I'm taking. I really want to use the shade Growth, but I think that's gonna have to wait for another look because I feel like that's just maybe a little bit too much. I'm gonna pick up a little bit more of the shade of Fern, which is the really dark green, on a flat shader brush, and then add it similarly to that dark blue shade from the other side where I can get kind of the point that I want with the brush. Yeah, it's a little bit more rounded, but I wanted it to come out on the edge more. With that original crease brush, I'm going to blend it just a little bit. That got a little bit muddy. I'm going to pick up a little bit more of the shade Gather and Nurture, which is these two lighter shades, to help me blend them. Oh wow, I didn't realize when I was swatching it, the shade Thankful up here is also like a Super Shock. Very creamy. That is stunning. That's really, really pretty. I'm gonna use the shade called Grassland on the inner part of the lid. I'm gonna press this on the very inner part of the lid. That's a stunning color. And I usually don't like those colors. Okay, I'm using a brush to add that shade to the very inner part of the lid. I am so impressed specifically with this palette. I cannot wait to play with it more and get some more put together thoughts, because right now I'm just kind of like oohing and awing over it because I think it's beautiful. With the other side of this flat shader brush, I want to pick up more of the shade Equinox. I feel like this is gonna have pan in it in like 3 uses because it's so malleable. But I want to kind of pack this over. I want to try the shade Communal here for the inner corner. I'm going to take that on a brush and add that as my inner corner highlight. Okay, that's a pretty nice inner corner highlight. I feel like it's not crazy. It's not like super sparkly or anything like that. But I am going to go in with the shade Harvest Moon here, which is super, super sparkly and glittery. So here's the look before I put this on, just so that you can see that it is still really reflective and multi-dimensional, but this I feel like is going to just amp it up. I want to put this all over, kind of in like a sheer wash. I'm gonna pat it all over the lid. Wow, I love that. I want to put that shade on the other side, but at the same time I don't think I'm gonna put the lashes on today. I'm so sorry, because I'm gonna have to do a liquid liner. It's gonna take a long time. This is going to take me a long time because I never put on lashes. So I hope you guys don't mind. I'm not going to use this in this video. I think on the lower lash line over here, I want to add the shade Willow. We haven't used that one yet, but I think it looks really pretty. Now that shade in particular kind of blended right away. So I'll have to see how that does when I use it a little bit more. I think it might have just been that I was trying to put on the lower lash line. Okay, I feel like that kind of emphasized my under eye bag. So I'm also going to go between Nurture and Oak a little bit, be a little bit more, and kind of blow that shade out a little bit more. I feel like it'll be okay. I'm gonna put mascara on. I'm gonna go ahead and add some mascara. This is the Anastasia mascara. This is called the Lash Brag. I don't think I've ever even looked at the name of it. I feel like, is this Anastasia's only mascara? I'm not sure. Okay, I added about 2 coats of mascara to the top lashes and 1 to the bottom. I kind of want to add this, but I feel like it's going to be a little too intense for these eye looks. It is, but it's okay. I mean, we have 2 different eye looks on. I don't know what I'm expecting. Okay, we've got some final thoughts here. So here are both of the completed looks. The green side with the Harvest palette, and then the kind of like more ethereal sort of side with the ethereal palette. So out of everything that I've tried, I would say I would skip the matte eyeshadows, unfortunately, just because of the inconsistencies. Unless you were wanting one of these 2 shades, then maybe try it. I will try and use these more and give you guys some more definitive thoughts on them and actually use them on the eyes. So let me know if there's any shades in particular you want to see me use. I can definitely do that for you guys. So the lipsticks feel very comfortable on the lips. I will say though that I thought that they were going to be a little bit more like dry down matte, like not. I guess I thought they were going to be transfer proof. I'm not sure if they claim to be that or not, but that's kind of what I was getting from them. So definitely would not pass the kiss test if that is important to you. They're gonna for sure just transfer. But the shades are really pretty, so I'm still excited to use them. I think the packaging is quite nice. It feels pretty luxe for the price, especially for these to both be $5 together in the bundle. $2.50 for a lipstick, like you pretty much can't even beat that anymore. But for sure, the stars of the show with this collection are the eyeshadow palettes, 100%. Based on first impressions, I did use several shades from both palettes, and just from the way that they swatched, I do think the Harvest palette has a little bit more pigmentation. It's a little bit more high-end feeling, and it's a little bit more pigmented. But on the other side, the Ethereal palette is still really pretty. It's got several standout shades to me. I think the color story is beautiful and honestly in both palettes, but I just feel like it's so cohesive in a sense where you have some shades that kind of pull you out of the like bluey purple sort of shades with that orange and pink, but it goes very well with the palette. I feel like at first I thought maybe this one didn't really fit in, but I think it does, especially with some of these other matte shades. But after swatching them and after using them, I do actually think this one's going to be my favorite, and I'm so glad that I picked it up. So this Harvest palette, I think, has the most unique formulas in it. Like I mentioned, this shade here called Thankful and then Equinox feel like very creamy, buttery, sort of like jelly sort of textures. I really like that a lot. You've also got this Harvest Moon shade, which is very reflective, and the Marigold shade as well, which is very reflective. I would say that the shade from the Ethereal palette right here is more of a pressed glitter sort of formula, but it also has two of those really foiled shades. Neither one of these to me are a pressed glitter, but this one definitely is. So if that's something you avoid, definitely know that there's one of those in that palette. I wouldn't classify any of the shades in this one as that though, and I really, really like the way that they did this palette. Again, I feel like there's not too many repeats. Like these two green shades here, in my opinion, are quite different. This chartreuse shade is very different from this one. The textures are also extremely different. I don't feel like any of the shades are too similar. Even between these two shades here, these are the closest, I think. Oak and Crop, but Crop is a lot more warm tone, whereas Oak has that kind of green undertone, and I think that it makes a lot of sense in this palette. I really like both of these palettes. I think I would give Ethereal 8 out of 10 stars, and I think I would give Harvest like, so far 9, because I haven't tried every shade, but maybe 9.5, and I will say I don't think it can go above 9.5 for me because of this. I don't feel like my shadows are very protected. I do store my shadows like kind of some of them on top of each other in a very shallow, long drawer. So I do want to keep that in mind, that this is very cheap feeling. They always have plastic packaging, but I feel like this is not, okay? However, I think the packaging is beautiful. I really like the cardboard packaging. So I think I can probably get past that because I really don't like their typical plastic packaging. It's actually why I don't own any of their palettes. If you were gonna pick up one thing from the collection, I think it should be the Harvest palette. Not even gonna lie. I know it's a little bit more of a fall palette, but I definitely don't think you're gonna be steered wrong if you choose this one. I still don't think you're gonna be disappointed if you pick up this Ethereal palette. Just know that it's a lot more of like that watercolor sort of feeling. It's a lot more of that kind of subtle glam, like I mentioned. So just depending on what you're into. So far, I really like both of them. So let me know down below if you're excited about this collection and if you think you're gonna pick anything up. Also be sure to let me know what you wanna see more of, anything more in depth. Let me know down below. Thank you guys so much for watching today's video, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Bye.